Next is talk about vocal variance versus grammatic gravity. And what I'm referring to here is that there are, in the constellation of as many game masters as there are out there in the universes that they have created, every one of us has a different way of portraying non-player characters. In certain cases, the persona that they interact with is a throwaway. It's something that they're never going to use, and so the conversation is almost always in the third party. I'm going to talk to the boy at the stable and have him take care of my horse. Done. There's no need for a conversation, no need to identify who that kid is. We just are leaving the animal at the animal care place, and it's fine. But when you have, especially when you're dealing with a recurring character, someone who's going to be back episode over episode, the players will want to be able to identify that person. Maybe they're looking to talk to somebody that they know will be influencing the story. They've done some research. They know who they want to talk to in terms of a name, but they've never met that person and they're not even sure how to identify them. Well, having a means of changing the way you speak to represent that personality, or by changing up the terms, the actual words that you use to express the difference in the personality, those are both ways to go. Now, vocal variants can be anything from pitching your register and changing up your timing to actually affecting a specific ethnic group or a specific person that you want to channel into the character. For example, I like, for example, using somebody like John Wayne or Matthew McConaughey or even Robert De Niro. When you utilize those kind of persons and channel in your mind what that person would sound like when they say the words, then of course your vocal variance is going to shift to match that perception. And usually it's poor. Usually it's not good. And while there are people like certain critical role play groups, as you may get my drift, who are professional voice actors, nonetheless, even somebody as goofy as myself can do a wascoey wabbit on occasion, or perhaps a pig that has difficulties with language. But these vocal variances are never intended to be a castigation or a criminalization or even a disparagement of the person that you are emulating. Instead, it's intended to be sort of an homage, or at least a recognizable trope, to allow the players to catch onto the ambiance or the feeling you're trying to possess and express. So that's one methodology. A second methodology, which is arguably more difficult but can be done, especially if you write scripts for them, is to have your speakers speak with a specific, as I wrote here, grammatic gravity. They speak with a grammar and a diction and a presentation that in no terms would be confused with another different and disparate character in the game. So that when you speak and when you use the presentation style that you've created for that NPC, then the players will know immediately who you are in story without you having to exposit the name of the character and such like. So the real point of both of these angles is that each GM, each storyteller, is going to use different methods. So you want to find one that works for you. And generally, I recommend to have 3 to 5 different voices and utilize each one uniquely within the time frame and the location of the story that you're telling. For example, maybe you have, perhaps you have 4 or 5 or 6 NPCs in a game and you want to divorce them from each other and outline each one. Then certainly assign a voice to them. But next week, if you need to do 5 more voices, as long as they're separated by time and by use in game, there's no reason why multiple people can't have the same inflection or nasal quality or whatever that you're going to portray for that character. It's just important that when they hear that, they recognize that character at that point in time. So try to restrict the number of different voices that you do to make it easier on yourself, but expand the number of voices that you do to give room for additional characters in the story that might show up that you need to be able to portray other than the ones you've already scheduled. All right, we're coming up on it now. In this next part, I used to call it the 1 minute rant. I've long since